One Piece Supreme Control, Chapter 681-700. Chapter 681-Global Vibration. At the moment when the general's words fell, the entire planet of the Seth tribe began to undergo a huge transformation. Hundreds of cities shook the ground at this moment. The sound of rumble came out, and under everyone's surprised expressions, the ground began to flip. The Seth people built a defensive device on their planet. Once a strong enemy comes, they can replace all the buildings and humans on the ground to the ground. This overturned land has a thickness of 100 meters and is difficult to destroy. At the same time as the flip, the strongest combat power of the Seth clan buried deep underground on weekdays will also be exposed to the surface in an instant, launching the most powerful attack on the enemy. In just 5 minutes, such a flip has been completed. The topography of the Seth planet is completely different at this moment. The original tall buildings, streets, and vegetation have all disappeared at this moment, and replaced by armies and large-scale attack machines that are ready to go. Target, Luotian, 3,000 miles in the west, destroy the enemy. Whatever it takes. Lang Sen's words spit out from the general's mouth, and the countless troops on the ground also moved quickly at this moment. Countless roars, a large piece of light rose to the sky, and then the heavy machinery on the ground that was as huge as a mountain also appeared here. In just 10 minutes, Shia had already encountered the first group of enemies attacking in the sky. It's interesting. The voice seemed to be laughing, but Char's expression was still extremely indifferent. His right hand sticks out, and the dazzling light blooms again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Before he could shoot, the opponent's gun barrels, various rays, and shells had already rushed towards him. Just when these attacks had reached 100 meters in front of Shaya, the light of his right palm suddenly brightened, and then a huge shock wave swept out. Boom! In the void ahead, the space originally filled with fighter planes turned into a mass of flames in the blink of an eye. On the ground, large-scale attacking machines also began to brew explosive attacks. With sufficient energy, the attacks of these weapons were extremely powerful. Boom boom. Nearly 100 mountain-like gigantic attacking equipment launched an attack, moving towards Shia in the sky in an instant. This wave of attacks is faster and more powerful than before, but in an instant, it has drowned Shaya's body. Hit. The Seth people jumped up excitedly, but 2 meters later, they looked at the indifferent voice stepping out of the flame. Their expressions were slightly startled, and their eyes narrowed. The figure standing in the sky had a stern expression. Just now in the raging fire, even the corner of his clothes was not hurt. Keep attacking. From the ears of everyone on the ground, there was a loud roar from the superior. Energy refill, aim locked, ready to fire. They have manipulated such a machine countless times, and this time it was a perfect completion, but just as they were about to launch, their vision turned red. Flames, bursting flames swept from the front at a terrifying speed. They could clearly see that the huge and heavy machinery in front of them, like a mountain, was overturned, and then torn to pieces in the shock wave, turning into a mass of scrap metal. Some people even saw the black figure in the sky from the corner of their eyes, and slowly retracted their right hand. Boom! The scorching flames instantly overwhelmed the sky and overturned all the ground in a radius of 100,000 meters. The speed at which Shaya eliminated the enemy was simply unimaginable, and he didn't stay behind at all to these disgusting breaths. And this is not the Earth. No one can stop what they do. This was a massacre, but it was also a kind of self-venting and release after Cheria failed again last time. At the command's heart, the general slammed the table hard, his eyes trembling and trembling, his heart was almost desperate. Why is that guy so powerful? Just for a moment. If that's the case, how can it be delayed for a month? I'm afraid that if he acts with all his strength, he can destroy this planet in half a month. The general was deeply entangled, and as for his own safety, he didn't care. Compared to the birth of Lord Shiro's, everything else seemed insignificant. He lay down on the table and began to meditate, before giving the order after a long time. Spread the army, stop in place, and send squads to annihilate the enemy. Yes, the general is starting to delay tactics. It is said to wipe out the place, but in fact, all the teams sent out have been reduced to artillery fire. What happened next was exactly as the general expected, and Shia was annoyed by these squads and became more and more brutal. But there is no way. Kill a batch, he will have another batch in another place. In just 1 week, he killed 530 batches, but the number of enemies added up was not many. It works. As long as it can be delayed for a month, there is a way. The general squeezed his fist excitedly. Time. What he needs most at this time is time. As long as there is enough time, Lord Shiros is born, then all that is not his concern. On the 10th day, Shaya's eyes were already cold to the limit. He stood high in the sky, looking at the empty land around him. His eyes became more and more impatient. This group of fragile ants has a good plan. His mind is like a demon, even if he didn't realize it at first. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. But quickly reacted. Want to procrastinate? Any plans? It's interesting. I'll see what you guys want to do. After a pause, Shaya's hands were suddenly placed on his waist. But, before that, I'll give you a reminder, lest you ants think that I'm such a fool. As soon as the voice fell, the red light around Shaya's waist flickered and bloomed. Turtle School Qigong Wave. The light wave suddenly became larger, and Char's whole body was reflected in red. After 2 breaths, he shouted loudly and pushed his hands towards the ground in front of him. Huh! The crisp air-breaking sound rang out, very sharp and pleasant. However, the next picture is not beautiful at all. The crimson light beam landed on the ground, bursting with unparalleled air waves and shocks, swaying in all directions in the blink of an eye, and the circular Qigong wave at the front end of the beam was rubbing and rubbing the ground to move forward rapidly. Every time you advance 1 meter, the surrounding will vibrate in the void, the ground cracks open, and a terrifying shock erupts. In the blink of an eye, under a shock wave from Shaya, the planet of the Seth family has entered the vibration and movement mode. Chapter 683-Calm Heroes. The scientists stared at the closed hatch, sweat oozing from their foreheads. I don't know if it's nervous or worried, because this strange calm is really not in line with what they think. Imbued with such a huge amount of energy, the birth of Lord Shiros should be a shock, and this small laboratory will probably be directly shocked by its momentum in an instant. How could it be like this, so peaceful? Sir Heroes, are you all right? After a long time, someone asked with a pale face. It stands to reason that the energy is instilled, the eternal melting pot is completed, and Lord Shiros should come out, but now it is such a quiet scene. It should be fine, right? All the processes are carried out according to normal steps. Someone replied, but everyone could see the lack of confidence in the words. It was the calmness of Lord Shiros at this time, which made everyone worry too much. After a long time, the interior of the hatch still did not open, and there was no response. The scientists finally felt that something was wrong, gritted their teeth, and waved their hands. Open the hatch. As soon as the 4 words came out, everyone immediately took action. After manipulating a series of programs through the computer, they entered many passwords, and then opened many organs. After a full 15 minutes of tossing, the door, which was nearly 10 meters thick, roared and moved slowly. As the hatch moved, the scientists also stared at the door with wide eyes. The scene inside the cabin door was quickly seen clearly by them. A figure with a naked upper body and red hair sat cross-legged on the circular platform of the heart, with his head lowered. He seemed calm and unremarkable. But everyone recognized it. This is Lord Shiros. He hasn't changed a little bit from before, he hasn't become as strong as Logan, he looks very powerful, and his height has increased. Just like before, Shiros-sama was still the same. Lord Shiros. The scientists were nervous and whispered. Calm, Lord Shiros is so calm, it worries them. I'm fine, please open the hatch. Shiros raised his head with a smile on his face. looking very kind. His opening also put the hearts of the scientists in place. That's great, Lord Shiro's is fine. Lord Shiro's is fine, if the test is successful or not, as long as Lord Shiro's is here, it will be the best. Lord Shiro's, how are you feeling? Is there any discomfort? The scientists cried out with excitement. The energy is perfectly fused with the eternal crucible, and I feel it, very powerful. Thank you. Shiro's said with a smile. He looked kind and looked very close to the people. Great. Our experiment was successful. The scientists almost jumped up and looked at Shiro's expectantly. Yes, your idea is not wrong, and the experiment is not wrong, very successful. Store the power in different levels and release them one by one. Each level will be perfect, and it will be able to exert its maximum combat power without putting too much burden on the body at ordinary times. I have to say, you are really the most precious treasure of my Seth clan. Shiro stood up slowly, with a smile on his face, praising the scientists. Being praised by heroes, all the scientists were excited, and some even had tears in their eyes, and their whole bodies trembled with excitement. Why did they work so hard for so long? Isn't it for the approval of Lord Shiro's? As long as they are recognized by Lord Shiro's, then no matter what they do, they will be willing and will do their best. It is our honor to be recognized by Lord Shiro's. The humble way of scientists. They couldn't help being humble. It was the fact that the other party was the wisest, most knowledgeable, and most responsible leader of the Seth tribe in the past 1,000 years. In the eyes of the entire Seth clan, Lord Heroes is a god, and the most powerful patron saint of the Seth clan. As long as the other side is there, the Seth clan will not perish, but will grow stronger all the way. Theft of Saiyan DNA and fusion itself is the creation of Lord Shiro's, and the energy furnace is also the invention of the other party. When the two are combined, it will form a qualitative change, making the originally weak and powerless Seth people become stronger. Incomparable. From then on, they are a powerful race with both technology and combat. This is a very beautiful thing. I feel a strong breath on the surface of our planet. What's going on? There was a reaction between the energies, and Shiro's immediately felt the existence of Char and asked aloud. He was neither arrogant nor impetuous, neither rushed nor slow, very stable. Here comes the Saiyan, a very powerful Saiyan. The scientists answered immediately. Shiro's eyes flashed, and his eyes flashed with enlightenment. I understand, wait for me, I'll go out, and when I come back, I'll give you the rewards you deserve. Shiro's nodded and said to the scientists, making them all excited. That's great, Lord Shiro's is out, that wild monkey is dead. I'm looking forward to the eternal furnace. The 4 levels are progressive, and each level of power is the previous one. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of times, how long will that wild monkey last? Lord Shiro's said to reward us, that's what we should focus on. On the ground. Shaya stood up, flew into the air, and searched around indifferently. As long as he sees a place where there is a breath of life, he will drop a Qigong wave, instantly turning that place into ruins. The Seth people didn't know what method they used to put all the creatures underground, isolating Shaya's breath, and it was difficult to find a place for them to gather for a while. Suddenly, Shaya's figure fluttered, her eyes raised, and she stared at the void in front of her. A black spot appeared suddenly and calmly, as if he was here originally, very abrupt. Huh! A crisp and steady sound of breaking through the air sounded, and the figure was completely breathless. Shaya felt it carefully, and actually felt that the other party was like a stone, but it was obvious that the other party was a creature. After more than 10 breaths, the black spot quickly enlarged and turned into a tall and thin man with red hair. Judging from his appearance, it was obviously a Sai clan. His eyes flashed, Shaya's eyes narrowed. Standing so close, he still couldn't feel the other party's breath. Chapter 684 _ out of sight. Are you a Saiyan? The figure of the visitor enlarged, stopped 30 meters in front of Shaya, and asked with a smile on his face. "That's right," she replied indifferently, and Shaya was noncommittal. Saiyan, his body is fused with multiple genes, and even he himself does not know what race it should be. "My name is Heroes, the leader of this planet and the most powerful man." Shiro's was still smiling, there was no tension or panic on his face, and he seemed very calm. "Then you must die." The cold words came out of Char's mouth, and the latter's figure flashed and disappeared from Shiro's eyes. So fast. Shiro's was stunned for a moment, then his body slumped and moved 5 meters. Woo! A leg suddenly appeared in the position where he was standing, swept across the sky, and the wind blew violently, blowing towards him. The hostility is very heavy. Shiro's eyes narrowed, the kindness on his face was no longer there, and a touch of scarlet appeared in his eyes. A swarm of ants wants to steal the power of an elephant. Shaya spat out in disdain, showed her figure, and attacked again. Heroes raised his fists to fight, and the two quickly punched hundreds of punches in the air. "I have fused the genes of your Saiyans in my body, and injected the powerful power of the eternal melting pot. The energy I have at the moment is not what you can imagine. The moment I came here, you were doomed to die." At this moment, Heroes was full of ruthlessness and cruelty. The 4 colors of the eternal melting pot on his body alternated with each other, and finally turned into black, which merged with him suddenly. Wow! Black energy surrounded Shiro's, and at this moment his power suddenly increased 50-fold. Bang! The two quickly punched in the air, and Shaya felt the power coming from the fist and blinked. Is this an artificial man? A breath that is completely different from living things is equivalent to a piece of inanimate machinery. However, the partial power has become extremely powerful because of the fusion of energy and genes. During a fight, if you are used to relying on your breath to judge the enemy's position, you will be disturbed and at a great disadvantage. In an instant, Shaya judged this truth. But then, the darkness in the depths of his eyes darkened even more. But it's too weak. Boom! The scarlet flames burst into flames, and Shaya's aura became extremely brutal. Bang! A punch was suddenly thrown, and it was directly printed on Shiro's face, causing the latter to scream and fall from the sky. The ground was hit with a big crater, and then, Shiro's just raised his head, and saw the red qigong wave roaring down from the sky, attacking him. So strong! Breakout! With a loud shout, the green light around Shiro's suddenly shone, and in an instant, the aura on his body swelled again, increasing 80 times. Suddenly, Shiro's became immensely powerful. In the face of the sky full of power waves, Heroes was extremely fierce. He bent his knees and flew straight into the sky. He roared in anger, and punched all the qigong waves with one punch. Entangled, endlessly. In another blink of an eye, Shiro's had already come to Shaya, without a word of nonsense, and attacked frantically with his fists. Fuck! Beat! An angry roar spread throughout the sky, and Shaya faced the fierce attack like a torrential rain. Her face was cold, and her arms were placed in front of her to resist the crazy attack. The strength is amazing. With every punch, Shaya will be repelled by dozens of meters, and he is too fast to react. But you have too many flaws. Suddenly, with a wrong body, Shaya actually reached the right person in the gap between the opponent's punches and faced Heroes. His hands were already grabbing one of the other's arms. Go down. With a sudden force, he grabbed one of Shiro's arms with both hands and pulled, and the man was already in the air, turned over, and pointed his back to the ground. Then, Shaya threw it again. Shiro's was stunned, and he didn't expect that at this moment, his body was out of control. Boom boom. Immediately after, the red qigong waves bombarded his back continuously, making Shirostan pale, and several mouthfuls of blood spurted out. Finally, Heroes hit the ground hard. What the hell is going on here? My energy and breath are so many times greater than his. Why is it not his opponent? Shiro's fell into deep doubt. He was not stupid, on the contrary, he was very smart. At this time, he was not angry, anxious, doubting himself, but thinking of ways to solve the problem. It's too difficult for ants to understand the battle of elephants. Because you're used to your narrow eyes. Sha sneered lightly, seeing the doubts in Shiro's eyes. This sentence made Heroes realize, but immediately, he became furious. Who are you calling an ant? Just a bunch of wild monkeys. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Boom. Shiro's body erupted again. Golden rays of light shone, and the power on his body actually increased 100 times again, becoming incomparably powerful. Buzz. The void shuddered. Heroes was as fast as light, almost in the blink of an eye. He arrived in front of Shiya, and then punched. Bang. Shiya didn't react to this punch, and was directly hit in the face, and fell heavily to the ground. Go to hell. Another loud roar. When Shiya fell, Heroes also imitated his previous attack and threw down countless qigong waves. Boom boom. A series of explosions sounded around Shiya, and the red flames drowned him in the blink of an eye. After 3 full breaths, the flame around Shiya just dissipated, and then he slowly lifted into the air. His originally reddish-black hair was now blonde. The golden aura surrounding its body also became countless times stronger. His face was even colder. His eyes were green and indifferent, like a god looking down at the heavens and the earth, just looking at Shiro's quietly. For no reason, Shiro's shuddered. An ant, it's an ant. Spitting out these words in a cold voice, Shiya's figure suddenly distorted and disappeared in front of Shiro's. The latter was startled and stared blankly ahead. Disappeared. In the blink of an eye, he reacted again. No, I can't see him. He's too fast. Chapter 685 You are too weak. In a trance, an afterimage seemed to squeeze directly in front of him. Kue couldn't even see the figure clearly, and then, a huge force came from his stomach and spread to the whole body in an instant. Then, severe pain, completely unbearable pain, swept out from his whole body, causing him to groan out in pain. His body sank directly from his stomach, his head and neck bent forward, and a mouthful of bitter water spewed out, as if his eyes were about to pop out. Just one punch shattered all the strength he had just gathered in his body. Is that the level? The cold and ruthless words came from the top of his head, and the thin figure appeared in front of his eyes with golden rays of light all over his body, slowly drifting, and standing in front of him. Shiro's opened his eyes diligently, trying to see the face of the person who attacked him. He was unwilling, angry, but unable to resist. Too weak. Boom. As soon as the words fell, an even more powerful force suddenly attacked his bent waist, directly breaking his unknown number of bones and knocking him to the ground. Cough cough. Spitting out blood, Shiro's expression became extremely pale. He slowly stood up, took a few breaths of air, and felt better just now. But the sweat on his forehead was already uncontrollably flowing down. This is caused by a combination of factors such as fear, tension, unwillingness, and pain. I'm standing where you can't see it. I have experienced your weakness and powerlessness in the long past. The indifferent words were passed down from the sky, and the cold expression of the golden figure was clearly reflected in Shiro's eyes at this moment, making it difficult for him to calm down. Damn it! With a loud roar, Shiro's body actually burst into red light. Chi chi chi. Suddenly, Shiro's body was beating like a steam engine, emitting white gas. There is a red energy wave, and at this moment, it also turns into lightning and surrounds him. At this moment, Shiro's aura suddenly swelled nearly 300 times. This vast breath swept up in the blink of an eye and rushed into the sky. Crackling. A golden lightning descended from the sky, fell on top of his head, and became one with him. There is another dense airflow rotating, like a vortex, surrounding him and protecting him. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The air vibrated violently 3 times, and the stones on the ground began to suspend, and then silently, they were shattered into powder by the flowing airflow. Gas, a majestic gas began to boil. This air enveloped the entire planet of the Seth tribe, making everyone feel that ominous aura. Too powerful. I feel the infinite power. This is the eternal crucible. Saiyan wild monkey, prepare to die. My power is inexhaustible. Shiro's personally experienced the 4th level power of the unblocking, and his expression instantly became excited, his eyes were crazy, and he roared loudly. Boom. There was another burst of air, all the visions surrounding him before disappeared, and everything calmed down again. It's just that heroes at this time, surrounded by red airflow, boiled like a flame, very fiery. Shaya stood high in the sky, looking down, her eyes narrowed. The eternal crucible, this is the core of the androids. The energy is really powerful, far more than I am at the moment, even. He suddenly narrowed his eyes and his eyes flashed. More than that person too. Buzz. Shiro's, who was below, suddenly flashed, and a crisp sound of breaking through the air came out. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of him and threw a punch. Go to hell, Shiro's shouted angrily, red light shining from his fist. In front of this suddenly expanding power, Shaya was actually powerless to resist, and was instantly slapped in the face, followed by countless punches from Shiro's fell on him. Die, die, die. Shiro's roared wildly, and greeted Char with his fists. In the blink of an eye, Char was repelled by heroes by several kilometers. In the case of this series of boxing, Charya seemed completely unable to fight back. But just after Shiro's violent attack, out of the corner of his eyes, he suddenly caught a glimpse of the corner of Shah's mouth under his arms, slightly curved, and there was such a sneering disdain. Not good. At the moment when his face changed greatly, Shaya's legs turned abruptly, directly pinching his neck. It was as if he was instantly locked by iron shackles, and at this moment, Shiro's was unable to move at all. Immediately following, he felt a strong force extending from the legs that locked him, and threw him out. Bang 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 bang. A series of indistinct attacks landed on his face in a matter of seconds, and Shiro's was instantly stunned. Finally, all the fists stopped, and a more violent force hit the back of his head heavily, knocking him to the ground immediately. At this moment, Shiro's had a bruised nose and a swollen face, and his breath was weak. You are the leader of this hybrid race. It's most powerful. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. The presence. A figure descended in front of him. Shiro's was lying on the ground and wanted to stand up, but no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't stand up. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. It is clear that his total energy has exceeded the opponent's many times. Why can the opponent still withstand his own attack? However, you can't bear the blow of the other party. What exactly is going on? Your energy intensity is indeed powerful. The indifferent voice suddenly spoke, causing Shiro's to be stunned. Much more than me, even, I have never seen such a powerful energy intensity as you. But, I said it. I'm standing where you can't see. You are too weak, not in terms of energy, but you, too weak. With such surging energy, you can't even use 1% of it, what a poor person. The increasingly cold voice came out, making Shiro's completely understand. He finally knew what the problem was, and he suddenly gained great power, but he was never familiar with it. It's like a child throwing a heavy bar that weighs thousands of pounds and can't swing it at all. The energy in his body is indeed powerful and indeed surpasses that of the other party, but the other party can perfectly exert any power of his body. What about him? 1% didn't work out. Chapter 686-fell. Under such circumstances, how can he defeat Char, who has fully controlled any power and is at the full power of Super Tournament 1? Crack. One foot stomped on Shiro's back, completely shattering the remaining struggle. What do you want to do? Shiro's asked in a tragic voice, full of unwillingness, but there was nothing he could do. I'm curious, how do weak creatures like you gain such power? Shah said indifferently. We have the most advanced biotechnology in the entire universe, and its secrets are naturally not understood by you creatures who only know how to fight. Heroes said firmly. Oh, Shaya's eyes flashed, and he remembered his own background. Wasn't he born just now because of those scientists on Earth? However, what he is more curious about is which side of the Earth scientists is better than the Seth people. I sensed a burning power in your body, Sha said softly again. That's the eternal furnace. It's the most high-end technology of my Seth tribe, the furnace technology. Shiroz said, his eyes flashed, and suddenly he said again. Do you want it? He'll give you endless power, as long as we work together. As long as you, Saiyan, cooperate with us, we will surely climb to the top of the universe. Whatever Frieza, the strongest galaxy in the galaxy, will have to stand aside. Saying that, Shiroz was excited, as if he believed in himself. As long as the two races unite, they will become the first in the universe. Shaya's eyes flashed, and she stepped on it suddenly. Click. The sound of bones shattering came. Shiro's expression was startled, his face was filled with pain. He raised his head and looked at Sha in disbelief. Don't you want the technology of the Eternal Forge? Shaya's eyes were cold, and one foot stepped down again. Click. The bones and joints of Shiro's body were completely shattered by Char. At this moment, he was crawling on the ground, like a puddle of flesh, unable to move at all. I can feel it, the furnace inside you. Suddenly, Shaya opened his mouth, his right hand was slowly raised, and a breeze blew out. The red light shone, and a circular qigong wave appeared in his palm. After killing you, I can get it. The indifferent words made Heroes completely desperate, and in the next second, a red light burst out, a hot flame erupted, and Heroes' screams came out. Ah, you want to kill me? Shiroz didn't seem to have expected this ending at all, and the cry was full of panic and disbelief. I didn't kill you. Cheria responded indifferently. It's the destruction of the planet. Boom. The explosion came out again, and Shiro's figure was drowned in flames. After a long time, when the flame dissipated and Shaya landed from the sky, he saw a diamond-shaped heart shining with 4 colors, beating vigorously. With every fluctuation, there would be abundant energy light shining out, and the 4 colors flowed. It looks bright, very charming, and people. This is the eternal crucible. After a few steps to the front of the heart, Shaya stretched out and grabbed it in his hand. However, when he clenched his heart, something shocking happened to him. Buzz. This heart, which was beating steadily, suddenly burst into an unimaginable light, and the beam of light formed by the 4-color energy in the blink of an eye swirled and wrapped him around it. Then the next moment, the 4-color energy continuously rushed into his body. In just an instant, Shaya felt the unparalleled energy flowing in his body, pounding, and the violent energy reaction made him cry out in unbearable pain. Ah! But following closely, a cruel smile appeared on Shaya's ruthless face. I really didn't expect that there would be such an adventure here. It was amazing. Quote. The moment the eternal furnace came into contact with him, it actually merged with him. That's right, the Forge of Eternity uses unimaginable energy compression biotechnology to turn it into a heart. He is a source of biological power, but also a high-concentration energy-compressed crystal. At the moment when Shaya came into contact, this eternal melting pot sensed the high-purity Saiyan bloodline in his body, and instantly merged with it spontaneously. Powerful, abundant, and terrifying energy, there is no incompatibility at this moment. Just in an instant, it all pours into his body and turns into the purest source of power. This fusion is progressing rapidly, constantly transforming Shaya's physical strength and toughness, and at the same time, the strength of his internal chi is also rising. Buzz. The air shuddered, and 4 colors of light continued to bloom around Shaya's body. The original black hair stood tall, and his body shone with black light. Then, he transformed into a Super Saiyan. Then, the legendary Super Saiyan mode of green madness and wild appeared, which made his whole person swell 3 times. Arms, big, and legs are all thick and strong, and they look strong and powerful. In the end, his whole body trembled violently and shrank again. His face became as young as 18 years old, his body was thin, his strength did not have any strong fluctuations, but his hair had all turned crimson. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. The pupils were dark and gleaming. Just standing there quietly gave people an inexplicable pressure, as if the nature of the organisms had changed, his soul had sublimated, and he had taken a step towards a higher level of living beings. Shaking his fist lightly, a smile appeared on Shaya's face. I really didn't expect that there would be such a state. He felt that he was different, a real difference. This is a brand new realm, as if he can perfectly control any power he possesses, and his breath seems to have changed, which is different from ordinary people. Interesting, this new mode is called Super Saiyan, Red. After saying these words softly, Shaya's expression suddenly froze, and his expression became gloomy. The red hair suddenly fluctuated, and then fell strangely, turning golden. What's the matter? That feeling of perfection has fallen. There was an angry look on Shaya's face. The perfect feeling just now was the greatest enjoyment. He could guarantee that this was the most powerful state in the world, without exception. That is a powerful state that surpasses 10,000 kinds of creatures and countless people in the universe. Is the world the most perfect? However, it actually fell. Chapter 687-Start Training. If it falls, it means that there is nothing left. That perfect, flawless, perfect state is completely gone. Shaya's heart suddenly became violent, because the power that was just merged was still out of control, and the breath leaked out. In an instant, an extremely powerful breath rushed out of his body, causing everyone within a radius of 3,000 kilometers. It was a huge gust of wind, the dust filled the sky, and the ground was forced to sag by his breath. It's abominable. My strength is still not enough. In a state of perfection, with my current strength level, I still cannot enter. After leaning for a while, Shaya Ming came to his senses. In the blink of an eye, his body began to rise slowly, and his eyes looked down at the land below coldly. As he rose higher and higher, the underground buildings, mountains, forests, and oceans became smaller and smaller. Soon, he had reached the atmosphere, and his eyes were surrounded by white clouds. But after merging with the eternal crucible, I finally discovered the talent of my bloodline. Different from the Saiyan's fighting bloodline, my bloodline is compatible, with great inclusiveness, and he can integrate more powerful bloodlines. He still has infinite possibilities for development. With the fusion, I will have more powerful talents, and I will still be stronger. His eyes suddenly became sharp, and his rising body suddenly stopped. At this time, Shaya's body has reached the vacuum of the universe, the surrounding is dark, the stars are shining in the sky behind, and in front of him, there is a huge star. And now, what I'm going to do is destroy this hybrid planet. Slowly stretched out his hands, and then joined together, the red Qigong wave light blinked and flashed. Seth Planet, in the underground laboratory. The moment the aura of heroes disappeared, the expressions of all Seth's scientists changed drastically. What's the matter? Why can't I sense the breath of Lord Shiro's? The tracker on his body has no signal. Could it be that Lord Shiro's is defeated? All the scientists suddenly panicked. What does defeat mean? If you lose, it means you are dead. In the face of brutal Saiyans, they don't think the other party will show mercy. Buzz. Suddenly, on the screen in front of them, a red light appeared, obscuring all the pictures that the camera could capture, but the moment they saw this phenomenon, all the scientists trembled, and their faces showed panic and despair. It's over. It's a Saiyan. He launched an attack with such a vast amount of energy. This is going to blow up the entire planet. We have nowhere to run. Thorn. Suddenly, all the currents began to become unstable, and a large explosion sounded quickly, spreading to the entire laboratory. This phenomenon is happening all over the world, and in the blink of an eye, all the Seth people are desperate. They all clearly saw the sky that was covered by red. A huge energy ball like an invincible detector is slowly descending. It is said to be slow, but in fact, the speed of that energy device is terrifyingly fast. Buzzing. Under the threat of this huge energy ball, the air began to twist, and his coercion caused the surrounding space to fluctuate slightly. Finally, under the fearful eyes of all the Seth people, the red energy ball hit the surface of the planet. Buzz. A circle of huge ripples bloomed, and the solid ground, like a wave of lake water, was set off by layers of ripples and began to spread towards the entire planet. A great vibration began to spread from one point to all directions. At this instant, countless volcanoes began to erupt, the ocean roared, and the wind roared wildly. Then, a little crimson bloomed, and the energy ball spread, exploded, and blasted out. Boom! Countless explosions converged at this moment, and red cracks began to appear on the surface of the planet, bursting with splendid and colorful brilliance. Click! As if this huge shattering sound reverberated in the hearts of all the Seth people. It's over. Countless people screamed in pain before being drowned in flames in the next second. Boom! In front of Shaya's eyes, the originally beautiful and huge planet burst into a beautiful brilliance in the blink of an eye, and then exploded in an instant, turning into the dust of the universe. Beautiful colors. With appreciation, quietly spit out such a sentence, Shaya's body twisted and disappeared in place. Now that he already knows his racial talent, he naturally has to complete it and make himself stronger. At the same time that the Seth clan Beshaya was destroyed, the Kaiwang god who was far away from Kaiwang Xingxing suddenly raised his head and his eyes became sharp. Invisibly, a coercion spread out, alarming Jabus who was standing beside him. Lord Realm God, what happened? In the far west, a star has disappeared. Shaking his head, the Realm King said solemnly. There are countless stars in the universe, and many stars are destroyed every day. Jabus said suspiciously. It's not the same, this time it was man-made. I felt an evil aura that was very powerful. The Realm King shook his head and said, what amazes me even more is that this chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. This breath made me feel very ominous. Jabes also became solemn. He deeply knew that gods and humans were different. Humans sometimes have a whim, but it's just a blink of an eye, not necessarily accurate. However, the gods are different. As long as the gods feel it, it is equivalent to a magical prophecy, and he represents the inevitable occurrence of things. We must speed up the training for him. Kai Wangshan said solemnly again in a blink of an eye, has Qing not returned yet? No, Jabes shook his head. Tell him to come back immediately, the training is about to start. Kai Wangshan said in a low voice. Okay, Jabes nodded. At the same time, Yang Qing, who was accompanying Yi Qi, suddenly heard a word in his ear. Qing, go back to the realm of the realm immediately, the training is about to begin. This was Jab's voice. Yang Qing's eyes flashed, and he nodded darkly. I got it, Jabes, I'll be right back. After replying a sentence, Jab's voice disappeared. Yi Qi, who noticed that Yang Qing's face was wrong, immediately asked. What's wrong, Qing? I have to go and start training. I'm sorry, I can't accompany you. Said apologetically, Yang Qing stood up. Chapter 688 Make again. Yi Qi was stunned for a moment, then reacted, and didn't make trouble, just smiled and said softly. I see, although you haven't said anything these days, I feel that you are under a lot of pressure. Char, is it strong? After some hesitation, Yi Qi finally asked. Well, very strong. Yang Qing nodded in a condensed voice. Then work hard. I, Saya, and many people on Earth, still rely on you to protect me. Yi Qi smiled. Yang Qing was startled and nodded silently. He didn't think too much about it. If the disaster really came like the plot, he would definitely protect Yi Qi and the people who were close to him first. He also has his own plans, and it is definitely impossible to do something with all his strength. Then I'm leaving, take care, Saying something to Yi Qi, Yang Qing put the fingers of his right hand between his eyebrows. Yi Qi stepped forward, hugged Yang Qing gently, put her head on his mouth, and listened carefully to the strong heartbeat of the other party. After 3 seconds, she took a step back and nodded. "Come on, Yang Qing." Yang Qing was stunned for a while, then smiled. "I will be stronger." Swish. After a breath, Yang Qing's figure distorted and disappeared opposite Yi Qi. At the same time, a figure appeared in the palace of the Realm King Divine Star. "Qing, you are here." Seeing Yang Qing, Jabes greeted him with a smile. "Well, Jabes, I'm here to train." Yang Qing beckoned, then looked at the Realm King on the seat, and bowed slightly to salute. "Lord Realm King God. Don't be too polite, since you're here, let's get started." The Realm God stood up and walked straight down. "Yeah," Yang Qing nodded. Afterwards, the three of them left the king's palace together. Zhuangshan led Yang Qing and the two to an empty platform before slowly lowering their bodies. Then, the Realm God just turned around and said to Yang Qing indifferently, "Qing, I plan to train you to become a new Realm God." "What?" Yang Qing did not expect that when the Zhuang God opened his mouth, he was surprised. In each universe, there are only 5 Realm Kings, the Big, the South, the Northwest, and the God of Destruction. Their status is only under the Quanwang, and it can be said that they are at the top management level. Moreover, most of the Realm Gods were selected from Realm Kings, and they cultivated themselves like Yang Qing. He thought he had no chance at all. He came here just to get more advanced teaching and make himself change. Powerful, but hearing the mention of the Realm King God, it seems that I have the hope to go further and become the Realm King God. Me, can I also become the Kaiwang God? Yang Qing pointed at himself in surprise. It wouldn't work. However, our universe is a bit special, so. The Realm King God paused, and said again. As long as you reach the assessment prepared by the Realm King God, you can directly become a preparatory Realm King God, and finally turn positive and become the real Realm King God. Only in our universe will there be such an opportunity. Originally, it was definitely not your turn. He stared deeply at Jia Wangshen. If it wasn't for the seriousness of the impending disaster, he would not have considered Yang Qing. In fact, this kid is talented and powerful, and he will definitely be useful in future disasters. Now, the only thing to worry about is your Xinxing. Mind. Yang Qing was stunned for a moment. His Xinxing has been tested by the Great Realm King, and there should be no problem. As gods, especially Kaiwang God, what we monitor is the order and stability of the entire universe, and we are responsible for the creative power of the universe, and confront the God of Destruction. So, your mind must be pure and unsullied, and it must be objective and realistic. Kai Wangshen explained lightly, and Jabes came over with a tea set. Now, make me a cup of tea. The same method as that of the Great Realm King, but Yang Qing's eyes flashed and he realized it. The tea of the Realm King God is different from that of the Great Realm King. The Great Realm King only considers whether he is kind at heart and whether he is an evil person, and this cup of tea of the Realm King God, I am afraid there are many other ways. Slowly walking to the gap, Jabes smiled at Yang Qing and backed away. As a servant of the Realm King, he would not get such an opportunity as Yang Qing. But he understands the strength of the other party, so he also admires it, and is very happy for the other party to fight for it, and there is no jealousy. Yang Qing began to pour water, which was not the same as the cup of tea of the Great Realm King, which was beyond his expectations. This cup of tea was brewed smoothly, and there was no strange phenomenon. With doubts, Yang Qing pushed the tea in front of the Realm King God. Lord Realm God. Jia Wangshen nodded, glanced at Yang Qing's tea lightly, and then flicked his right hand, and the colorful light shone, and Yang Qing's tea began to ripple slightly. At this moment, the tea water became cloudy, and after 3 breaths, it became clear again. At the same time, the eyes of the Realm King seemed to see the past and the future, and this past and future contained countless branches, intertwined with each other. He saw countless choices made by Yang Qing, on Star Vegeta, This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Leaving the seeds of the Saiyans, a few years later, the Earth was in danger. He took a strong shot to save Yi Qi and others, but let the Earth be destroyed by the 17th and 18th. After nodding slightly, the Zhuang Shen looked at Yang Qing with confidence. There are omissions, but it doesn't affect the overall situation. Your Xinqing cultivation base is in line with the development of the universe. However, it still takes a long time to consider. During this time, don't change your mind because of some things and keep your original mind. You know what? The words of the Realm God made Yang Qing confused. Understood, Lord Realm King. He glanced at Jabus secretly, and the latter gave him a thumbs up, which made Yang Qing also laugh. It seems that he passed this level. After heaving a sigh of relief, the words of the Kaiwang God came over again. If you want to become a world king, you still have a lot to learn. It takes time to accumulate, so don't worry for now. Now, first and foremost, I'm afraid you still want to increase your strength, right? Yang Qing narrowed his eyes and nodded. Yes, I want to improve my strength as soon as possible. Shaya's pressure is always there, pressing down on his heart like a mountain. He doesn't know when the other party will surpass him and do something beyond his control. Come with me. We also hope that your strength will grow as soon as possible. Chapter 689 _ Preparing the King of God. That way, in the event of future disasters, you can be of help. The Realm King said in a low voice, and his figure slowly floated up. Yang Qing and Jabes quickly followed. Cultivation. One is to cultivate the mind. The second is self-cultivation. 3 is to cultivate qi. And our gods, unlike mortals, have to cultivate divinity. While flying slowly in one direction, Kaiwang Shen said. Yang Qing listened carefully. He had already understood all these after years of cultivation. Cultivating the heart means cultivating the fighting heart, never giving up, full of fighting spirit, never giving up any ray of hope, and always having a determined and resolute heart to make progress. Self-cultivation means cultivating the physique, strengthening the body, and possessing a physical body that cannot be destroyed by the destruction of the planet. As fragile as a mortal, if it collides with a Saiyan, I am afraid it will be torn apart. As for cultivating qi, it is the energy contained in the body. It is like a source of power. It can give a living body a lot of power when it moves, making you energetic and powerful, and at the same time, it can be transformed into the most powerful means of attack. The gods, with their divine nature, can give organisms a clearer perception of various situations around them, as if there are countless pairs of eyes distributed around them, making your senses more acute. Even the powerful ones can perceive everything from an incomparably far distance. Right now, your combat realm and strength are still at the stage of mortals, and in terms of realm, we are far from reaching the realm of gods. Realm King God's bold words made Yang Qing's brows rise. The realm of the gods. It was the first time he heard these 4 words, and he was very curious. Yes, after reaching the realm of the gods, the power will reach an inestimable increase, and the breath of God is completely different from that of mortals. No matter how powerful ordinary mortals are, they can't feel the breath of God in battle, which means, you see no opponent. Secondly, the realm of the gods has a 100% control over power, far surpassing that of ordinary people. It is extremely skilled in the use of energy, and can materialize energy. In short, if you can reach the realm of the gods one day, then there may be a chance to fight the god of destruction. The Realm King finally smiled lightly. Of course, the foundation of all this is powerful energy, body, and mind. Fortunately, you have become a god now. The identity of a god does not mean how powerful the combat power is, but it means that they will not be too weak. I will first teach you the use of divinity. The 3 slowly landed on a square surrounded by white stone pillars. The use of divinity is very simple for the gods, and his role is also obvious, which is to increase combat power. In addition, gods also have divine pressure. The level of gods is naturally higher than that of mortals. For ordinary creatures, there will naturally be a kind of coercion. This gap between dimensions is sometimes the method of confrontation. The Realm King slowly floated 5 meters in front of Yang Qing, and a smile suddenly appeared in his eyes. Like this. Om. A peculiar aura suddenly descended on Yang Qing's body, shaking his entire body, followed by a big change in his face. He felt the breath surrounding him, and it locked him directly. For a while, Yang Qing couldn't even move. This strange scene shocked him. Well, what's going on here? Yang Qing struggled hard, but couldn't struggle. There was a mysterious smile on the face of the Realm King God, and this kind of power extended from his body, making Yang Qing completely unable to use his power. The reason why the gods are gods lies in the mysterious and unpredictable powers in his body. For example, the imprisonment between the meta levels can make you lose control of your body in an instant when you are fighting. Then, Yang Qing's whole body loosened, and the power had been withdrawn by the Realm King God. You still have a lot to learn. Your divinity is very strong, but the way you use divinity is very rough. I will teach you slowly. The words of the Realm God made Yang Qing happy. Now that you open up your divinity, I need to know where in the dimension you have reached. The light words made Yang Qing's expression serious. The status among the gods is determined by the level of this dimension. After self-cultivation, groping, and finally absorbing Abinos, he has reached the level of the King of the Realm, but he is not clear about the realm of the King of the Realm. Slowly, Yang Qing fully bloomed his body. In the square of white stone pillars, there was an invisible wind. Ordinary people can't see this wind, but Kai Wangshan and Jabes can see it clearly. They saw that Yang Qing's body, which was originally shimmering with a faint golden color, suddenly rushed out a golden cloud-like golden color. This golden color is very deep and extremely dense, forming a continuous piece, quickly appearing in their eyes, and then rapidly expanding into the sky. In the end, in a matter of seconds, a tall figure was actually formed, standing there, standing in the sky, golden all over, and his face was undoubtedly Yang Qing. This golden giant is still growing in height, which means that his figure is far from reaching. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. To the end. The face of the real king has become shocked. He looked at the thin boy in front of him, and he didn't know what to say. Such a vast divinity has reached the level of a great realm king. What the hell is going on this kid? Unless ordinary people inherit the gods, it is impossible for ordinary people to become gods. However, this kid broke the past, and even reached the peak in the realm of the Realm King. This really made him not know what to say. He is fully qualified to become the preparatory Kai King God. Immediately afterwards, the Realm King responded again. Involuntarily, the Realm King squinted. To be honest, the kid in front of him is not even a Realm King at this moment. He only has the dimensional level of the Realm King level, but seriously, he is still immortal. However, as long as you give the other party the status of the preparatory realm god, it is really a step up to the sky. Even if the preparation of the Realm King God is preparation, its identity and status are absolutely top in the entire universe. He is higher than the Realm King, lower than the Realm King God, in between. This is a truly glorious identity. Chapter 690-King's Ring. Having such an identity means that in this universe, you will have the opportunity to achieve the highest status and stand at the pinnacle of divine authority. The golden giant, standing in the sky, standing on the Realm King God star, gradually became even bigger than this star. Kai Wangshan and Jabes looked at the scene in shock, and they found that until this time, Yang Qing's divinity had not yet fully bloomed. This kid's divinity is already so vast. A divine nature as vast as a galaxy. Where did he cultivate it? The Realm King's eyes widened, filled with inexplicable horror. Lord Zhuangshan, I have reached the limit here. No matter how old I am, I will become a galaxy. The thick voice came down from the sky. It was Yang Qing's voice. You take it back, I've already made up my mind. The Realm King was startled and said loudly. The golden giant nodded, then withdrew his divinity and began to shrink. After 3 breaths, it was all contained in Yang Qing's body. Lord Realm King, is my divinity enough? Standing in front of the Realm King God, Yang Qing said with anticipation. After all, he was born in a wild way, although he probably judged that he should be at the stage of the king, but in the end, he had to rely on the eyes of the king. Enough. With a bitter voice, the expression of the King of God returned to calm. Your divinity has fully satisfied the needs of becoming a great king. After a pause, Zhuangshan's eyes hesitated for a while, and after 3 breaths, they became firm again. Do you want to become the preliminary king god? As soon as these words came out, Jabz's eyes widened immediately. He looked at Kai Wangshen in shock, and then looked at Yang Qing with envy. What? If Jabez was shocked, then Yang Qing was completely stunned, and his whole body was shocked. Preparing the realm god, this is an existence that can become the real realm god just by taking one step. However, today, it was about to come to him. Become a preparatory realm god. You will be educated by regular gods, and it will also improve your strength. Jia Wangshan said indifferently, staring at Yang Qing's eyes. This kid has a good temperament, and he is not an evil person, but he is not a stubborn feudal guy, and he has already met the requirements of becoming a god of preparatory kings. And now the universe is indeed lacking the most high-end power. Perhaps, this is destiny. I do, Lord Realm King God. Yang Qing took a deep breath and said seriously. Very good. The king god said immediately, then turned around and said to Jabez, Jebbies, change him into a suit. Good. Jabez responded and pointed towards Yang Qing. Immediately, the clothes on Yang Qing's body became the same as that of the realm king, and the whole body was black. Yang Qing, who changed clothes, became another style in an instant. Come with me, you have just become a god, you must understand some common sense of gods. The realm king floated slowly and led Yang Qing and the two towards the palace. Originally, the realm king was planning to teach Yang Qing some fighting techniques in this square, and then slowly improve Yang Qing's divinity so that he could reach the minimum standard of becoming a realm king. But now, since the other party has already reached the after the standard, naturally another method has to be changed. In a sense, Yang Qing is his disciple and his inheritor from this moment on. After 10 seconds, the three came to the palace. The king god asked Jabez to stay outside and led Yang Qing into a house. This is the world king gods of the past dynasties. The magic between many gods in the collection may not be helpful for battle, but it is wonderful. As a god, all your thinking should be based on the objective laws of the universe. There are no restrictions, but the rules of the universe are the biggest limitation. You must not interfere with the life and death of the creatures below, and you must not change the past and the future. Zhuangshan is the power of creation in the universe. What we have to do is to protect all living beings. It is our greatest task and job to not let the universe be damaged too much. With some relief on his face, Zhuangshan smiled and said to Yang Qing. Yeah. Yang Qing nodded and looked at the books in the room. Our realm gods learn knowledge from all things in the universe. The king of the realm said, with a wave of his hand, an illusory planet appeared in front of him. There were many creatures in it, time traveled, thousands of years in the blink of an eye, creatures changed, rivers changed, everything was clearly seen by Yang Qing. You can't change the outcome of things, what you have to do is to help them understand the beauty and how to survive better. The other thing is. Having said that, the realm king god paused. It's the strength you value most, and your fighting method. Leading Yang Qing to take a few steps forward, Zhuangshan clapped his hands, and a TV set from the Yixidu era immediately appeared here. From here, you can see the universe, the battle of the powerhouses of all races, the past and the present, but you can't see the future. After staring deeply at Yang Qing, the realm king said again. Our king god, many things are born with, but we also need to learn the day after tomorrow. And you are as strong as. This chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. This is powerful, I believe you also know what to learn. All I can do is give you time. Give you knowledge. The words of the Realm King made Yangqing stunned. After more than 10 seconds, the Realm King led him into a dimensional space. A year here is an hour outside. You can practice here. Of course, before that, I will grant you the status of the preparatory realm god and increase your lifespan, otherwise, you will die within a few days of staying here. Dead. Yangqing was stunned. He practiced the cultivation technique, and his lifespan should be very long. I think your lifespan has surpassed ordinary life, 300 years, but it is far less than ordinary gods. You just have the status of a god now, but you don't have the air that a god should have. Come with me. After a few words, the Realm King turned around again and left here. The latter scratched his head and quickly followed. This time, what Zhuangshen led Yangqing to see made him tremble. This is the ring of the Realm King God. I will use it to grant you the status of the Realm King God. From now on, you will be my inheritor. Before you became the Kaiwang God, you must learn and grow with a pious heart. Chapter 691-New Power. You have to keep in mind that any one of your thoughts will have a great impact on the universe. When thinking about problems, you must be thoughtful, close, and cautious. Zhuangshen said these words very seriously, and while speaking, he stared at Yangqing's eyes. The latter also nodded deeply, indicating that he understood. Afterwards, Kaiwangshen slowly took out the ring from the box and put it on his finger. This is the ring that Kaiwang God uses to observe the past and the future, and it can lead us through time and space. Of course, you can't use it to do anything, otherwise, you will go against the sin of time. The Realm King stared at Yangqing with a serious tone, as if warning him. I understand, Lord Realm King God. Staring at the time ring, Yangqing nodded. Afterwards, Zhuangshen pointed his finger at Yangqing and said something in his mouth. Gradually, a golden light appeared on his fingertips, and then suddenly, it turned into a brilliant haze, and rushed towards Yangqing. This haze instantly enveloped Yangqing's body, and then merged with his body in a matter of seconds. In just a moment, Yangqing seemed to feel that the divinity of his whole body suddenly solidified, and it became much tighter, and even the nature became different from before. It was as if before, he would have a sense of contradiction between his own divinity and the universe's repulsion and fusion, but from this moment on, he and the universe have become very close, as if they have become one. From now on, your identity is the preparatory realm King God. Always remember your identity and responsibilities, otherwise, once you make a mistake, I will revoke your identity. Yangqing nodded solemnly. There are so many things you need to practice. At present, the most important thing to control is the use of energy. The Realm King put the ring in the box and left here with Yangqing. On the way, he said in a low voice again. Energy. Yes, the use of energy. The Realm King nodded. Yangqing did not understand that energy is actually qi, and the use of energy is mostly attacks like qigong waves, such as the instantaneous qigong waves he controls, and the turtle-style qigong waves emitted by accumulating energy, etc. Then, what is the use of energy that Kaiwang God is talking about at this moment? The universe should be divided into many kinds of forces, which are composed of various different magical substances. For us, the most important things are matter, spirit, and energy. And you have sufficient control over matter, that is to say, your physical strength, and now, it is energy. First of all, you need to understand what powers are in your body. Zhuangshen lightly explained to Yangqing, the latter's eyes flashed all kinds of enlightenment. Qi, spiritual energy, and your divinity. Gods are all divinities, and spiritual energy dominates. With divinity as the body and qi as the clothing, they have extraordinary power. And you, obviously different, your divinity and qi have reached an unbelievable, very powerful level. Once you combine the two, you will truly enter the realm of gods. Of course, you are still a step away from that step at the moment. But it doesn't matter, it's enough for you to use the power of God. The eyes narrowed, and the Realm King waved his hands, and the environment of the place where the two were located immediately changed greatly, turning into a palace surrounded by white stone pillars. Here, I will grant you the power of God. God's power. Yang Qing was stunned, and his eyes shone brightly. There is no doubt that God and man are completely different beings. What kind of power is God's power? Next, I'll show you, Qing. You have to be optimistic, comprehend carefully, and learn. This process may be very long, but you must master it. The Realm King said again, and then, his body slowly floated into the air. Closing his eyes slightly, Kai Wangshen took a breath, and then began to release his power. It's the radiance of divinity. The golden dazzling light came from the body of the Realm King, and Yang Qing felt that he couldn't open his eyes at all, but in just a moment, he judged that this was far beyond his dimensional level. This kind of divinity has solipsism and the power to create everything, which is powerful and terrifying. This golden light swayed, twisted, came out of the body of the Realm King, turned into a tadpole, and circled up and down around him, and then, a majestic aura appeared, before Yang Qing could see it clearly, has merged with the golden light in front of him. At this moment, this new energy shuddered again and again, followed by a terrifying breath. This is the combination of gods and people, and at this moment, the king of the realm burst out with unparalleled majesty. Even Yang Qing was shocked by the power of the Realm King at this moment. It seemed to be the same as his peak and peak period, but if he felt it carefully, it was different. The aura of the Realm King was even more mysterious. This fusion is difficult, but you must not think that this new power is a temporary fusion of qi and divinity. Immediately after, the Realm King said again. When you can combine qi and divinity, regardless of each other, and become a new energy that fills your whole body, you have stepped into the first step of God. Of course, you can also become powerful enough to use your powerful power to directly connect the. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Break through the boundaries of man and enter the realm of God. However, as far as I know, since ancient times, there are very few mortals who can accomplish this. Yang Qing nodded secretly. He knew how to forcefully enter the realm of God, but that state was not stable. He has been working hard in this direction for a long time. His bloodline has returned to ancient times, and he has continuously improved his strength. Now, his black hair is mixed with red hair, which is the result of his hard work over the years. Super Saiyan God, this is a transformation of the realm of the gods. Once he enters this realm, he has the possibility to fight against the gods. The power of the King of Gods in this universe is not strong, but in other universes, 12 universes, there are countless strong people. Once he uses the time machine to go back to the past and come to that time and space, he will definitely face more opponents. I will decompose a small part of my power and carefully see the process of his fusion. This is the first step for you to become a god. It has to be done perfectly. With a wave of the King God, a mass of energy shattered into two strands, and then began to slowly fuse. Chapter 692-History. The original energy turned into two types in a blink of an eye. Yang Qing clearly saw that these were two different types of energy, qi and divinity. He condensed his mind, looked carefully, his eyes lighted. Through the dust, he could even clearly see the air, those energies in the infinitely tiny environment, the composition of atoms and molecules. These tiny particles, in a strange and orderly running sequence, quickly tangled, wound, and moved. The two energies are very repulsive, but they seem to be pulling in all the time. Gradually, in Yang Qing's eyes, time seemed to slow down. With a mysterious power, the Kaiwang god slowly pulled the two energies closer, and then used a strange structure to rearrange their atoms and molecules. The order of this arrangement seems to be irregular, but it seems to be very regular. Time seemed to be stretched by the Realm King. He presented the process in front of Yang Qing with a very microscopic scene. The scene in front of Qing's eyes was already very exciting, and it was clearer than any explanation. Yang Qing had a hard time understanding these fusions and the order in which they were arranged, but he engraved them all into his mind. With the introduction of these arrangements into his mind, the two powers of his body seem to be about to move. These two energies seem to be trying to merge with each other, but because of that contradictory and attractive force, they are separated in countless moments. This is a very powerful separation force. Even if Yang Qing tried his best, he couldn't let the two energies get close to one another. It must be sorted according to the order of the Kaiwangshan before it can be merged together. Yang Qing's eyes flashed and he suddenly realized. He raised his head and continued to stare at the fusion process of the realm. At this moment, the two energies of the Kaiwang god have formed a new structure, showing a spiral shape, slowly revolving around a sphere in the heart. Immediately after that, the spiral also turned into a particle, and finally, a new energy molecule was formed. The brand new energy molecules seem to have magical and inexplicable power, containing extremely strong pulsations. The new molecules seem to have different energy concentrations, and the explosive energy generated actually makes the surrounding space tremble. Moreover, he seems to have a brand new power, with infinite possible changes and extensions. This is the power of the gods, the power of the gods. The divine hand of the realm shone with purple light. The power of this divine power was not comparable to Yang Qing's energy intensity at the moment, but after its fusion, the power that erupted 100,000 times stronger than the original shocked Yang Qing. You need to spend a long time to comprehend such power. Even if it is me, I can only complete a trace, otherwise, I can't be just this kind of power. After speaking, the King of God shook his head, full of disappointment. In the realm King God, his strength is indeed not strong, but stronger than him. There are many who have already stepped into the realm of the gods. I see. Feeling the terrifying power of this divine power, Yang Qing nodded, and his eyes shone brightly. This is pure power doubling, and it is more pure than transforming into a super Sai, or temporarily increasing the combat power of Kaiwang Fist. Because as long as it is elevated, it is permanent. I see you Saiyans, do you have a transformation mode? The Realm King said suddenly. Yes, Super Saiyan has 4 stages of transformation, and each stage will increase his strength many times. Yang Qing nodded and said. This is a crooked way. The real power is your own power. You don't need any means. Standing there, you are powerful. The Realm King shook his head. Yang Qing was startled. It seems that the old god of the realm who came out of the sword in the original book also said the same. But after thinking about this, he suddenly felt that the Kaiwang god was far different from the original one. Perhaps, the realm gods of different time and space will also become different. The realm god in front of him is obviously ruthless, wise, and more knowledgeable. I took you to that room before. There are many videos of power-up, various creatures in the universe fighting against each other, and even from other universes. Watch and learn more. If you don't understand anything, come and ask me. After the Realm King God finished speaking again, he turned and left. Yang Qing looked at the back of Zhuangshan with admiration. After all, it is the highest god of the universe, and perhaps the opponent's strength is not the most powerful, but this kind of demeanor really has the demeanor of a god. In fact, the layout of the palace of the Realm King God is very simple, and the Realm King God took him to see it. There was no sign in the room, so Yang Qing made one by himself. For example, he called the room where the practice notes and battle videos of the past kings and gods were hidden in the past. He called it the Tibetan Sutra Pavilion, and the room with the rings was called the Time Room, because the time ring inside could take people through the void at will. As for the king's palace that he entered at the beginning, he called it the Living Room. After a simple classification, Yang Qing entered the Tibetan Sutra Pavilion. This is indeed what Kaiwangshan said, and all the practice notes of Kaiwangshan of all dynasties are hidden in it. If you want to understand the power of God, you must start with God's own practice. With a twinkle in his eyes, Yang Qing began to retreat. The practice notes of the realm gods of the past dynasties are actually very numerous, and there are various ancient gods hundreds of millions of years ago, tens of millions of years ago. Among them, some are as powerful as the god of destruction, and some are weaker than even mortals. However, each has its own set of practice theories. This is what Yang Qing needs most. After understanding the practice of these gods, it can be said that he understands everything, rules, history, its operation, etc. of this universe in a sense. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Time is slowly passing, and since that day, Yang Qing has got into this library. From the oldest look, more and more enlightenment flashed in his eyes, and the brilliance of his eyes became more and more prosperous. It turns out that the real-world kings of different eras have different cultivation methods. The older they are, the more they pay attention to the cultivation of the body, and because of this, their bodies are mostly immortal. Ordinary injuries cannot cause any damage to their powerful bodies at all. If the existence of freezes level, it can't even leave traces on them. And when the time comes, the energy system is prosperous, and the realm gods begin to accumulate energy, so their chi is very powerful. Until, and now, the way in which divinity and energy are combined begins to emerge. Chapter 693-Purify. Yang Qing's eyes flashed brilliantly, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. A member of the 126th Kaiwangshan, who realized the method of merging divinity and energy into a new energy, and developed the fourth system. Since then, this fourth system has been circulated among the gods for a long time, and has been practiced by the vast number of gods. Compared to mortals, this new cultivation system undoubtedly has a great advantage. He has a stronger explosive force and a higher concentration of energy density. That is to say, the previous three systems have been abandoned, and now this fourth system is the mainstream. Eyes twinkling, Yang Qing is thinking. Ancient times, modern times, and now, these cultivation systems have all burst out with their most powerful brilliance, and each has its own advantages. It is impossible to compare which one is more powerful, and can only say which one is more comprehensive. Complete. Body, energy, divinity, these three are the foundation of a person's strength. As one's own strength continues to grow stronger, all transformations to increase combat power, or short-term skyrocketing, will gradually lose their effects. Yang Qing understands that this is also the reason why the stronger the Zhuang fist is, the more difficult it is to perform. The more violent and a lot of energy, the more difficult it is to control. If one is not good, this violent energy will tear oneself into pieces. Practice the body, fuse chi and divinity, that's what I'm going to do now. Yang Qing has a rough plan for what he should do. There are actually a lot of things that Zhuangshan wants to learn, but Zhuangshan obviously makes him focus more on the growth of his strength now, and other required courses about Zhuangshan have been put aside. Perhaps, the Realm King God also has something that I can help with after my strength has been greatly increased. Seeing that, Yang Qing began to study the power of the fusion of the two. Qi and divinity are two contradictory but unified energies. They have the inevitability that they can be merged, but they are mutually exclusive. It is not so easy to accomplish. Closing his eyes, he began to replay the microscopic scene imprinted in his heart again and again, and then, following the scene that Kaiwangshan showed at that time, he released two groups of energy from his body. A cloud of light blue, a cloud of gold. As soon as the two energies appeared, they approached each other, but at the moment of approaching, they seemed to be affected by a great repulsive force, and life and death could not be combined. It's like two lovers who miss each other very much, who haven't seen each other for a long time, and finally meet once in a while, but they are influenced by a third-party force and can't hold hands. It has to be done according to that framework. Yang Qing's face was solemn. He also clearly felt the power of this repulsive force. It seemed to be the force of the universe. A rule was stuck and it was difficult to complete. Then, under the control of Yang Qing's divinity and spiritual energy, the two groups of energy began to decompose and divided into atoms, molecules, or even finer particles. After this decomposition, Yang Qing saw a scene that surprised him. There are so many impurities. He was shocked to see that after these two groups of energy were decomposed, there were actually many impurities. Originally, The two sides should be light blue and gold, but after they became particles, the golden particles still had many tiny black particles, and the light blue had golden energy, which surprised him a little. These microscopic things cannot be observed under normal circumstances. Remove these impurities. In an instant, Yang Qing had a judgment. The energy of the realm king god himself decomposed. He can see clearly, it is pure color, without any impurities. In the case of impurities, it is impossible to complete the fusion of the two molecules, atoms rearranged, not so casual. As for the control of energy, only the gods can do it. Yang Qing also learned various secret methods of the gods of the past dynasties, and increased his knowledge before he learned about the decomposition and utilization of energy. Before, he had no idea that there were so many ways to use energy. After that, he entered the dimensional space of the King of Gods. An hour here is a year in the outside world. Decomposing energy is such a delicate work that it will inevitably take a lot of time, which is why it is difficult for mortals to complete it. Ordinary cosmic creatures have such a long life. After staying here for 2 days and 2 nights, that is, 48 years, Yang Qing finally turned all the energy of his body into pure color. The golden divine light, the light blue energy, the two forces, surrounded and flowed around the body, exuding beautiful psychedelic colors. It's totally pure now. Yang Qing's eyes flashed with joy. It was really beneficial to be a god. At least when he practiced, he didn't need to worry at all. Even if his body died, he could still survive in this universe. After removing all the magazines, the energy of his body decreased by about 2 layers, and the divine light decreased by 1 layer. But even so, his combat effectiveness has actually improved. It turned out that he was like water, soft but had no attack power, but after removing the impurities, his density increased and turned into ice cubes, with an extremely sharp attack power, and more solid, his whole body was perfect and indestructible. Boom! He clenched his fists, and in just an instant, he transformed into a Super Saiyan Stage 2, and his chi was still rising. I feel it. Feeling the bottleneck of the 3rd stage. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Just a little lift of your foot. Yang Qing's eyes sharpened. At this moment, he felt the transformation of the next stage. If he wanted to set foot now, he would be able to pierce it in an instant. This means that he can turn into the 3rd stage of Super Saiyan at any time. When the energy becomes pure, he is ascending in 1 step. However, after a breath, he said that his state returned to its original state. It's the best when it's done. Don't be in a hurry. With a twinkle in his eyes, he became calm. The temptation to advance to the next stage did not make him lose his mind. Even if he is able to enter the stage of Super Tournament 3 now, with that terrifying load, he probably won't be able to last for a few seconds, which is actually not very helpful to his combat effectiveness. Fusing the 2 powers first, let me fully step into the realm of God. Yang Qing clenched his fist, then released it. Chapter 694-Create Planet. After walking out of this alien dimension, Yang Qing went to the realm of the gods. It's good, your body's energy is further purified, and it seems that you have discovered your own shortcomings. The realm king was obviously aware of Yang Qing's flaws before, and nodded with satisfaction. The next step, you can try energy fusion, relax and rest these days. Well, purified energy keeps my mind tense, it's time to take a break. Yang Qing nodded and said that the suggestion of the realm king was exactly what he thought. If that's the case, go out with me, and take this opportunity to learn about the responsibilities of the realm king god. Jia Wangshen stood up, walked past Yang Qing, and walked outside. After being stunned for a while, Yang Qing followed closely. Jebies, I'm going out with Qing, you keep here. Outside the gate of the palace, just to see Jabez who was watering the flowers, the Kaiwang god instructed. Then, Zhawangshen put his hand on Yang Qing's shoulder, and the 2 figures distorted in an instant and disappeared here. In just a split second, Zhuangshan and Yangqing appeared in another area. Opening his eyes and seeing the void and darkness in front of him, Yangqing was a little stunned. Lord Realm God, where is this? In front of the void, there are dense meteorites floating, and there are also liquid and body floating, quietly suspended in the vacuum. Looking at this situation, it seems to be the meteorite belt left after the planet was destroyed. Because of the gravitational relationship between them, they form a circular ring formed by a meteorite curtain, which has a mysterious and eerie beauty. Under the irradiation of various star rays in the universe, it emits 5 colors of light. As the King God, we control the power of creation. The Realm God didn't answer Yangqing's question. He walked on, stepping on the void, stepping over it one step at a time, leaving ripples in the void. The God of destruction destroys the universe, and we are the creation. This is the meteorite ring formed after a star was destroyed 30,000 years ago. Today, what I want to teach you is the ability that the King of God must control. Turning his head, Zhuangshan stared at Yangqing and said in a very serious tone. What? Yangqing was still puzzled. Destroyed stars, rings of meteorites, taught here. Create stars. The Realm King calmed down and said these 4 words that shocked Yangqing. Create stars. Yangqing was really surprised. The shattered stars can still be recreated. This simply subverts his worldview. In his opinion, there are many magical powers of Dragon Ball, but he has never seen such a scene where the gods create stars. In the universe, stars are being destroyed all the time, but stars are being born all the time. This is the conservation of the universe itself, but there are always surprises in everything, and the universe will also have moments of adjustment and imbalance, and what our King God has to do is to help him maintain the operation of the rules when he is out of balance. This is the duty of our King God. Although the God of destruction controls the power of destruction, in fact, he is also adjusting the balance of the universe. This is God's duty. Indifferently, the Realm King said slowly for Yangqing, letting Yangqing gradually understand. In the case of gods, there is actually no such thing as justice and evil, only the statement of their respective responsibilities. Realm King God controls creation, and Realm King God controls destruction. They are not enemies, but belong to colleagues. God, what is it? It is a group of spokespersons who adjust the rules of the universe, let them develop laws, and survive longer. It can be said that God is the son of the universe. The universe gave birth to them, and they are responsible for the old age of the universe. Next, Qing, you can clearly see every step of my hand, the power of creation, you also have it, but you have not tried to create stars. The Realm King said with a smile, and with a wave of his hand, a large radiance of divinity and energy bloomed, but in an instant, it enveloped the entire meteorite ring. Yangqing was not shocked when he saw this scene. He naturally knew that it would not be a problem to cover the entire universe with the divine brilliance of the Zhuang God. A star is but the tip of the iceberg of its divine light. When the divine light of the Realm King God bloomed, another force followed. Yangqing clearly recognized it, it was Qi. Then, in an instant, the two energies were fused, and a majestic radiance burst out. Immediately afterwards, a column of energy beams like big hands appeared here, and bursts of light were constantly erupting. The broken meteorite ring began to vibrate violently, and the huge meteorite was shattered and became more fragmented. When it was broken into particles, a large amount of liquid and body began to pour into it. Break and stand. Looking at this scene, Yangqing understood. In front of him, the vibration became more intense. The original meteorite ring began to disappear, and instead, a spherical illusory body appeared. A large number of smashed meteorite particles began to rush towards the illusory body one after another. Gradually, the spherical giant became more and more full, and finally, Yangqing actually saw a blue planet appear in front of him. It's done. Floating quietly in front of the planet, Kaiwang Shen smiled faintly. Actually, if you use the time-shortening technique, you can accomplish all this in an instant. However, in the process of creating a planet, the control of energy must be precise, this is the most important. 4. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. For you, the mastery of energy is also a must-learn. Yang Qing nodded. When the Realm King God created this planet, he was extremely surprised by the precise and complete grasp of energy. Look more, learn more, and sooner or later, you can do it too. The Realm King took Yang Qing away from here and went to the next area. The created planet has no living beings, it has only oceans, and even the atmosphere is very thin. However, with the passage of a long time, one day, a bright light will also be born. Hundreds of planets have been created in a row, and Yang Qing is always by the side of Kaiwang God, watching carefully and learning. This is an extremely rare opportunity, even the ordinary preparatory realm kings do not have such an opportunity, which means that this universe realm king is dead, and there is no inheritance, so it is cheaper for Yang Qing. How did you learn the steps? Finally, standing in front of a blue planet, the realm king asked Yang Qing. I have it all etched in my heart. If two forces are fused, should be able to do it too. Chapter 695-Awakening 2. The Realm King was taken aback for a moment, then a smile appeared on his face. Very good. He knew that Yang Qing was disdainful of bragging, which meant that the guy in front of him could really accomplish such a job. Correspondingly, his burden can be reduced in the future. You must know that the work of creating stars should have been done by 5 people, but now, there is only one of them. Follow me back. Zhuang Shen said another sentence, grabbed Yang Qing's shoulder, and the two of them flashed, and they arrived at Zhuang Shengxing. After floating to the Zhuang Temple, Zhuang Shen glanced at Yang Qing and waved casually. Go and make me a cup of tea. Yang Qing was stunned and turned around. The tea set is still the same set, just to test his character. During this period of cultivation, Yang Qing's Xingxing has not actually changed. Therefore, after the tea came out, Zhuang Shen waved his hand, and the expression on his face was still satisfied. Very good tea, you are more mature now than before. The Realm King said with a smile. During this time, Yang Qing has indeed improved. The notes of the Kaiwang gods of the past dynasties, watching Kaiwang God create the stars, and when the two got along, Kaiwang God told him the truth of the universe. It can be said that Yang Qing's knowledge have far surpassed his former self. Go down, Qing, and practice hard. Finally, Zhuangshan waved Yang Qing back. Yang Qing, who returned to the Sutra Collection Pavilion, naturally tried to fuse his two energies while reading the book containing the philosophy of the universe. He allocates time very regularly every day, reading books, cultivating, and watching the duel of powerful warriors in the universe. At the same time as Yang Qing continued to make progress, in the far corner of the universe, the corner of a figure's mouth also grinned, showing a smile. As expected, as long as my bloodline continues to be perfect, the speed of progress can be accelerated. It's been 3 months since I left from the Seth clan, and my combat power has grown too much, and this one has only fused the genes of 5 excellent races. Shia stood in the void, looking at the planet with endless flames blooming in front of him, with an evil smile on his face. Looking at it, the most beautiful thing is the fireworks in this universe. Slowly retracting his right hand, Shia shouted loudly, and suddenly golden lightning swirled all over his body. The tiny golden lightning fluctuated violently. At the same time, his hair rose into the sky and stood on end, leaving only the sea in front of his forehead. With the few down, at this moment, his combat power has soared nearly 100 times. Awakening Stage 2. Is this what he reached? The corner of his mouth twitched, and Shaya's eyes flashed fiercely. Can you imagine that I reached your realm so quickly? Now that we meet, who wins and who loses? Shaya's heart was full of confidence, but he did not rush to find Yang Qing. Instead, he chose, after a thought, turned around and disappeared here. I will continue to search for the perfect racial gene to make myself stronger. This is not the final stage of awakening. I have a hunch that I will have a more powerful transformation. At that time, I will go to destroy you, and the earth." Saying these words coldly, Shaya's eyes are cruel and cold. During this period of time, he constantly shuttled through the stars in the universe, looking for powerful races that fit his will, then stealing their genes and merging them into his own blood. With each fusion, the energy in his body increases exponentially. When perfection becomes his own power, he will destroy such a race again. In order to avoid being discovered by the enemy in the future, Char is not shy about destroying these races. Time passed slowly, and the two opponents were constantly getting stronger. On Earth, Sun Wukong and Chi-Chi are married, and they have a son. Sun Wukong named him Sun Wufan to commemorate his grandfather. In the blink of an eye, a few years have passed. On this day, in a small remote mountain village on Earth, a meteorite suddenly landed from the sky. Boom! The hot flame erupted, the meteor hit the Earth, and a huge shock force erupted, and the ground was directly knocked out of a deep pit with a diameter of 100 meters. "What's that?" The farmer who was cultivating on the side looked at this place in amazement, took up the shotgun and walked towards the deep pit. Just as he walked to the edge of the pit, a shocked expression appeared on his face. This is... In the deep pit, the hatch of a small aircraft is slowly opening, white air rises, and after 3 breaths, a strong figure floats up, the tail behind it swings vigorously. This figure is wearing a thick combat uniform, with a pair of glasses on his eyes. His expression is cold and disdainful. As soon as he went out, he set his eyes on the farmer. Drip drip. The dense voice rang out and stopped after 2 seconds. The scum with only 5 combat power. The farmer was terrified, and he saw the strong warrior in front of him walking towards him. You, who are you?" The soldiers who came step by step put him under too much pressure. That strong breath, cruel expression, and the whole body was releasing a breath that was definitely not friendly. Bang! The gunshot sounded in an instant, and then, the farmer found his life. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. The world fell into darkness. Kakarot, did you grow up on this fragile planet? It's ridiculous. The figure who came to Earth was the Saiyan Raditz. Through accurate information, he learned that his younger brother was actually on this planet, and he planned to invite him to join the team of King Vegeta. In this way, they would have one more Saiyan, and in the future, they would also be able to fight Frieza. Strength. When he came to Earth, Raditz did not hide his aura at all. The majestic and evil aura spread far, to the heavenly palace. What a powerful, evil breath. Monkey King, Piccolo, Turtle Immortal and others immediately changed their expressions. At the same time, Seiya, who was hiding in Yi-Chi's house and practicing silently, also blinked, and his hand movements slowed down. Where did the ignorant Saiyan Jr. come from? Forget it, don't care about him, the first elder said, wait for him to inform, other things, all dangers, I only need to protect Miss Yi-Chi's family. With a change in his eyes, Seiya returned to calm and continued his practice. On the other hand, Sun Wukong has also met his brother Raditz. The resemblance between the two eyebrows really surprised each other. Chapter 696 _ How to Grab It. Raditz came to Earth, which means the beginning of the chapter of Longzhu's. This is the first point of the outbreak of Sun Wukong after he accumulated a lot. Since then, the protagonists of the whole world have begun to explode, and everyone can see a guy with extraordinary talent, far beyond ordinary, rising like a sky. With the same plot as the original, Sun Wukong sacrificed his life and defeated Raditz, but it also attracted the attention of Vegeta and others. Although many years of comrades in arms lost their lives, although Vegeta didn't say it, the loss and anger in her heart were already bursting. Go to Earth. Under the leadership of Vegeta, the Vegeta team, which has been operating for many years, marched towards the Earth in a mighty manner. At this time, Sun Wukong was running on Snake Island. He had to follow the long snake road to find the Realm King and accept his practice. Sun Wufan, on the other hand, was practicing with Piccolo in pain, and as time went by, the relationship between the two gradually deepened. These are the same as the original, and there is nothing worth saying. Time pulled, Vegeta came to Earth, and after some battle, he lost to Sun Wukong, and Nappa also died here. In the end, he was the only one left, but he got the news that Namek had 7 long beads. So, a battle storm that really brings the two protagonists to the stage is coming. Namek. A new storm has come, and this time, I don't know if my Namek can hold on. The Great Elder, who is much older than before, sighed with wrinkles on his face. Big Elder. The young Namekian looked at the Great Elder worriedly, but didn't know what to say. Child, you are just as kind and talented as when I was young. Perhaps, if Namek has a silver lining, it's up to you. The Nemesis, who was still young, was so shocked by the words of the elder that he was speechless for a long time. Elder, me. My time has come, and I won't live long. Seeing the nervous look of such a young nemesis, the elder laughed out loud. Chatting with young people always makes him feel alive. Just as he was about to continue chatting, an incomparably evil aura suddenly descended on the outside of Namek. Come on. In an instant, the elder's expression became heavy. That breath, if he guessed correctly, is the Emperor of the Universe Frieza. In addition, he also felt that although several breaths were small, they were not the powerhouses of simple guys. Obviously, the goals of these people here are all for the godlong of Namek. Ah, Ching, where are you? But still remember our original agreement. At this time, the elder suddenly remembered that powerful Saiyan. As early as many years ago, the young man seemed to have agreed with him that if Namek was in trouble, he would definitely help. However, many years have passed, and even he is a little vague about the content of the agreement. Will the other party still remember it? Suddenly, another breath came, and the great elder was startled. This is the breath of a Saiyan. Because of Yang Qing, the elders are very sensitive to the breath of Saiyans. I have to say that I suddenly felt the breath of Saiyans, which made the elder a little excited. Allah, go 3,000 kilometers to the west and welcome that Saiyan here. The first elder waved his hand, and a young Namekian walked over and nodded, then pushed him away. Whether it is related to Qing or not, at least a little bit of information can be drawn from his words. Shaking his head, the first elder closed his eyes. He was old, so he was very tired. Allah flew 3,000 kilometers to the west in the direction pointed by the great elder, and soon found the Saiyan hidden on the ground. He didn't hesitate, and came directly to the Saiyans. Saiyan, Allah shouted. Vegeta froze and said alertly, a Namekian. The elder invites you, please come with me. At this time, Vegeta is far from being affected by the Earthlings and understands responsibility, kindness, and the shadow of revenge, and evil. Hearing Allah's words, Vegeta laughed. It was really the sheep that invited the wolf to his den. It's interesting. Vegeta didn't hesitate and followed Allah directly. As long as they get to the Namekian's nest, these weak people have to hand over the long beads obediently. Soon, the two came to the place where the great elder was. Vegeta swept around, realizing that the surrounding Nameks were far less powerful than him, and couldn't help but smile. The sharp-eyed Namekian saw his expression and was already on guard. The young Saiyan who arrived here is far from the gentle aura of the original Master Qing. On the contrary, he seems to be surrounded by a blood-colored background. Elder, the guests are here. When Allah arrived in front of the great elder, he called out softly. Vegeta didn't have that much patience anymore. He took a step forward and wanted to ask for a long bead directly. Just when he was about to speak, the elder opened his eyes. Many years ago, Namek came. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. A Saiyan. This sentence directly blocked Vegeta's words in his mouth. Who? He asked curiously. His name is Ao, and he's a powerful Saiyan. Blue. Vegeta was startled for a while, feeling incredible. Young Saiyan, do you know him? We Nameks once helped him, and with his tribe, he also made an agreement with me that this disaster of our Nameks will be solved by Saiyans. Tell me if you were sent by him to help us. The first elder said a few words, so that Vegeta didn't know what to say. He was a little confused at the moment. He was here to rob. Directly snatch the long beads, then make a wish, defeat Frieza, and take revenge. But what's going on now? The great elder Ching has always been the person he respects the most, and he is also his only relative after the death of his father. Vegeta still remembers how good Ao was to herself when she was a child. However, it was this person who had already made an agreement with the Namekians. How to let him grab it? Ching, where is Ching? Vegeta, who felt a great headache, asked helplessly. The way things have developed so far, it is impossible to rob. Vegeta wouldn't care if anyone made a promise, but Ao, no. Chapter 697-Glory. Who is Ching? He was once on an equal footing with his father, King Vegeta, and was known as the first warrior of the Saiyan nation. Even among their Saiyans, there were rumors that Ching was the #1 powerhouse in the universe. Frieza appears to be the emperor of the universe, but there are rumors that his brother has already died at the hands of a mysterious space warrior. And his brother is far stronger than Frieza. This also means that the first person in the universe is someone else. Moreover, this person can easily kill Frieza, but he does not shoot. Vegeta was once very suspicious that the person who killed Frieza's brother was Ching. As far as he knows, Ching's strength has always been in an unfathomable realm. Even if he has grown up to now, he still can't see how powerful Ching was at that time. But, so many years have passed. Is he still alive? Ching, is he still alive? Unable to help, Vegeta asked with a complicated expression. The first elder gave Vegeta a strange look. Didn't you send him? Vegeta didn't hide it either, shook his head and said, no. After a pause, he said complicatedly. But he's my uncle. Indeed, in terms of seniority, Ching is his uncle. Well, that's fine, that's fine. On the frowning face of the elder, a smile finally appeared. Your body is surrounded by an evil aura, which causes you to be short-tempered and lose your original nature. You will have to restrain yourself in the future. Otherwise, this will affect your practice. After hesitating for a while, the elder said again. Since you are Ching's junior, I believe in your character. You're here, probably for Longzhu, right? Yes, I want to use the power of Longzhu to defeat Frieza and avenge my Saiyan clan. The power of hatred will not make you strong, and the power of Longzhu is not as mysterious as you think. It cannot give you the power to defeat Frieza. Shaking his head, the elder directly interrupted Vegeta's fantasy. Vegeta's expression changed greatly, her mood was mixed, and she didn't know what she was thinking. Longzhu will not give him strong power, so how should his plan to come to Namek and defeat Frieza be implemented? Come here, Ching Jr. Although your body is entangled by evil forces, I still see the tenderness and responsibility in your heart. You are a good boy like Ching. I still have some strength to pull out a shred of potential in your body. The words of the first elder made Vegeta stunned for a moment, and then she was delighted. Can you draw out the potential of my body? He asked loudly. Back then, Ching also had my potential drawn by me. Come on, child, don't resist. Hope you can fight Frieza next and do your best. The elder said with a smile and nodded, and greeted Vegeta with his right hand. Vegeta didn't hesitate either. Because of his cold and careful existence for many years, he saw people clearly, and naturally realized that the old man in front of him had no malice towards him. Immediately, he strode towards the great elder and came to him. Don't resist, boy. The gentle voice came to Vegeta, which made the latter startled, and the body that had been tense was relaxed. The next second, the big elder's huge hand pressed on top of his head. In just an instant, Vegeta felt the power in the depths of his body that he couldn't even find out, rolling out of his body and instilling it into his limbs. He instantly felt refreshed, and there was a feeling that his body was enriched. Power. I really feel the power. Vegeta was excited, and he could clearly feel that the old man really pulled out the power hidden in his body, and his chi was constantly growing. The elder's hand kept pressing on Vegeta's head for nearly 5 minutes before he withdrew his hand. The great elder at this time looked obviously a little tired, and his face was a lot older. "Son, I don't have much strength left, I can only help you get here." The words are weak, and the elder is obviously trying his best. "Frieza, I hope you can help us fight. You are Ching's junior, and the Nameks choose to trust you." Vegeta did not listen to the words of the first elder. He was immersed in the power that suddenly became stronger, and his whole body was shaking with excitement. Too powerful. What a powerful force. He clenched his fists tightly, feeling the power of his body rushing, and his expression was excited. With such power, will Kakarot still be my opponent? Frieza, I can go and challenge Frieza. At this moment, Vegeta felt that her body was more than 3 times stronger than before. The sudden and powerful force made his self-confidence burst, and he couldn't control this powerful force at all. "Mr. Vegeta, what are you next?" the Namekian asked politely. However, Vegeta, with a contemptuous smile, scorned the corners of her mouth. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Frieza, I'll fix it. With just one sentence, Vegeta rose into the sky and disappeared here. 3 minutes later, Vegeta arrived at Frieza's base camp. Looking at the huge aircraft surrounded by many soldiers, Vegeta stood high in the sky, holding her hands in her arms, her eyes showing anger and cold flames. "Frieza, after so many years of forbearance, I can finally take revenge on you in person." Muttering these words, Vegeta soared into the sky, drew an arrogance in the air, and rushed towards the aircraft. Enemy attack. In an instant, Frieza's soldiers spotted the raiding Vegeta and shouted loudly. But in an instant, Vegeta's hand rushed out a series of shock waves. Boom 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 boom. The sound of the explosion continued, and a large number of soldiers were directly torn to pieces by the shock wave. Frieza, here comes Vegeta. Restore the glory of the Saiyans of the past, today, I will kill you here. With a loud roar, Vegeta was full of anger, crashed directly into the aircraft, flew up, and headed towards the cockpit. He was fast and swift, and after just 3 breaths, he broke through the blockade and came to Frieza. Vegeta. Frieza, who was short in stature and had a cruel face, turned around slowly, looked at Vegeta with cold eyes, and cried softly. "What are you going to do?" Chapter 698 A choice. With a cold face, a calm tone, and a face that used to be high in Vegeta's heart, although his strength has greatly increased at this moment, he actually feels a strong pressure. Frieza. When the enemy met, Vegeta's strength surged, her eyes were extremely jealous, and she just roared out. "Today is your day of death." The second sentence, he shouted loudly, his knees were slightly bent, and the next moment, he was already in front of Frieza, and he threw a heavy punch. In Vegeta's heart, his strength has greatly improved, and this time it is very likely that he will take revenge. He investigated Frieza for many years, and based on various intelligences, he judged that Frieza's combat power was about 200,000. This time, he was attracted by the potential of the Great Elder, and with the accumulation of strength before, he has far exceeded the threshold of 200,000. With such strength, how could he not be able to defeat Frieza? Ha! After a big drink, his fist slammed down, and the fist style was fierce. No matter from which point of view, his punch was extraordinarily powerful. However, a look of disdain flashed across Frieza's eyes. Crack! Just reaching out, Vegeta's arm was firmly grasped, and for a while, Vegeta couldn't move at all. Vegeta's face changed greatly. He found that the short arm was caught on his wrist, and it was as firm as a hoop, making it difficult for him to move. Saiyan, still so stupid. I don't know how high the sky is. A cold voice came from Frieza's mouth, and then, a heavy punch was thrown again, and Vegeta's stomach rushed out with energy, and in the blink of an eye, his eyes widened and his mouth was full of blood. The originally confident and domineering expression turned pale and desperate at this moment. Wrongly judging the strength of the enemy, what are the consequences of returning? Vegeta. You should be very clear. Withdrawing his fist, Frieza coldly looked at Vegeta lying on the ground under his feet, his voice cold and ruthless. Vegeta swallowed, her eyes full of horror. He had misestimated the opponent's combat power, so what would meet him must be destruction and death. However, he doesn't want to die yet. I should have killed you with one punch, but... A playful expression appeared at the corner of Frieza's mouth, looking at Vegeta playfully. However, the Saiyans are left with a few big cats like you. If I kill you again, won't they become extinct? I'll give you one more chance. Now, kneel in front of me, kowtow 3 times, and swear to surrender to me. I'll let you go. The sharp voice came into Vegeta's ears, causing him to tremble all over his body, mixed with emotions such as anger, unwillingness, panic, despair, and so on, making him tremble constantly. How is it, Vegeta? I only give you 10 seconds to think about this. Frieza's expression was very interesting, and he wanted to know what choice the wild monkey under his feet would make in the face of an invincible enemy again and again. He likes to see the expression on the other side who wants to kill him very much, but can't kill him, instead he is terrified of his power. Vegeta clenched her fists and bit her lip, making a very complicated choice in her mind. What's the matter? Kneel down, what is the glory of the Saiyans? If I don't kneel, I'm going to die here now. Who will avenge my father's revenge? This kind of tangle made Vegeta extremely painful. He wanted to tear the person opposite to pieces, but he didn't have enough strength. This powerlessness and unwillingness made him despair. Just when Vegeta was in a desperate situation, on the edge of the distant universe, on a planet with clean air, Yang Qing slowly got up with a smile on his face. Very good, 3 drops of energy have been fused to form a new divine power. Yang Qing was very happy as he glanced at the 3 drops of blue liquid raindrops floating in the void. After a period of hard work, he finally completed the fusion of 3 drops of energy. Although there are only 3 drops, don't underestimate it. These 3 small drops of fusion energy, after dispersing, combined with Yang Qing's body, immediately burst into a terrifying power. This is a way of increasing the power that is unique to the gods, except for the Super Saiyan and Kaiwang Fist modes, and it is a permanent increase. With a wave of his hand, 3 drops of blue energy floated into Yang Qing's eyebrows and merged with him. Buzz! As if the void was shaking, Yang Qing's eyes became extremely sharp. There was no change in the momentum on his body, but the deep majesty seemed to shake even the space. Before he knew it, his power had increased a lot. Having mastered the new divine power, Yang Qing has initially entered the real realm of the Realm King God. Suddenly, Yang Qing's eyes flashed and he turned to look at the far side. Frieza, have you reached Namek yet? Becoming a preparatory realm god, Yang Qing's divinity has risen again. At this moment, except for the status of the Realm King, everything else can be said to be far from the realm. As long as time goes by, he works hard to cultivate the secret arts of the gods, and in time, he will become the new king of the gods. With his right hand suddenly placed between his eyebrows, Yang Qing closed his eyes and began to feel it. After a breath, a smile appeared on his face. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. Vegeta, I haven't seen him in a long time. I vaguely remember seeing him last time, when I was a little kid. In an instant, Yang Qing was the first to feel Vegeta's familiar aura. Then, his figure suddenly distorted, and the person had disappeared into the air. At the moment when he disappeared, the Realm King Temple, the Eastern Realm King God was startled. Qing left here, what are you going to do? Lord Kaiwangshan, he seems to be heading to Namek, where Frieza is looking for Longzhu. Jabes figured it out quickly and said softly. Frieza, that cosmic villain, Kaiwangshan said indifferently. Well, that's him. Jabes nodded. Kaiwangshan stopped talking and closed his eyes slightly. Brush. Just as Vegeta was making a difficult decision, a figure suddenly twisted and appeared beside him. The sudden appearance made Frieza immediately alert. Vegeta's reaction was slow, and it took 2 seconds to feel that there was another person in front of him, and he couldn't help but look up slightly. Black weird style clothes, thin body, but, most importantly, that body shape, deep in his heart, is so familiar and impressive. Chapter 699 Wow! Before she knew it, Vegeta's eyes shrank. It's hard to tell what kind of feeling Vegeta's heart is feeling at this moment. The joy of reunion after a long absence. Or is it the excitement of dying out? The great Elder Qing's powerful fighting power has always been a heavenly existence in Vegeta's heart. In addition, Vegeta has always regarded the other party as the closest person to the teaching and love that the other party taught and cared for him when he was a child. At this most uncomfortable and difficult moment for me, the other party appeared. Big, great elder. The most proud, Vegeta, who has always raised her head with a cold expression, her eyes were red at this moment, and her heart could not tell what she felt. The figure in front is very thin, but it is so solid. It seems that no matter what difficulties you encounter, as long as the other party is here, then everything can be solved. Yang Qing teleported over according to Vegeta's breath, and in just a moment, he could see the situation here. Involuntarily, the smile on his face turned cold. The vigilant Frieza, and the pained Vegeta lying on the ground, Yang Qing understands without thinking about what all these represent. I really want to slap you to death. But, staring at Frieza with cold eyes, Yang Qing's eyes full of anger put a lot of pressure on Frieza, causing the other party to immediately produce fine beads of sweat on his forehead. With such a huge amount of pressure, who the hell is this kid? Frieza's heart shook violently, and he stared at Yang Qing closely. Slowly bent over and lifted Vegeta up, Yang Qing nodded to the excited Vegeta. Get out of here with me. Just one sentence made Vegeta tremble and tremble again. There is salvation, as long as the Great Elder comes here, then everything will be saved. Glancing at Frieza coldly again, Yang Qing didn't say a word, his killing intent was boiling, and he could not control his emotions at any moment, and the possibility of shooting violently. Who are you? Frieza asked nervously. The other party did not show a trace of strength, but the coercion from the soul made him feel extremely uncomfortable. This was the result of Yang Qing's unintentional release of his divinity, which directly oppressed Frieza. A role like you is no longer qualified for me to take action. The anger is still there, but with Yang Qing's power at the moment, it is really overkill to shoot Frieza. He let out a cold sigh, and left the place with Vegeta directly. Frieza clenched his fists, the words that the other party had just said echoed in his mind, and his anger ran wild. Damn boy! Who is it? The power of the other party's faint release made him fearful. Until this moment, recalling the feeling just now, he was completely powerless and completely unable to resist. He understands this feeling because the other party is much stronger than himself. Once, that elder brother also gave him such a feeling. However, the other party is obviously more terrifying than the dead brother. After a full 3 minutes, the trembling from the soul subsided. Frieza touched his forehead, and dense sweat spread over the palm of his right hand. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Although he was angry, he decided not to provoke that weird guy no matter what. The other party's words before he left clearly showed that he looked down on his own strength and would not take action against him. Haha, the master's disdain. Gritting his teeth, Frieza felt humiliated. King Frieza. At this time, the cosmic soldier on the side called carefully. Frieza turned his head, and his indifferent eyes stared directly at the other party. Did you see it just now? Ah, I saw it all. The soldier did not understand, and answered honestly. Huh. A red streamer flashed directly, piercing the soldier's mouth, and Frieza's face was full of ruthlessness and cruelty. Since you see it, go die. He can't tolerate any guy who sees his own failure, these people must die. On the other side, Yang Qing took Vegeta to the top of a mountain. Vegeta, are you okay? Carefully observing the current Vegeta, Yang Qing asked softly, but as he observed, he frowned slightly. Because he has become a real god, Yang Qing's breath is righteous and bright. Even if he has evil thoughts, he will hide or destroy it. At this moment, the evil aura on Vegeta's body is very strong, so Yang Qingxi naturally rejects it. Elder, I'm fine, Vegeta insisted, her face flashing with pain from time to time. Frieza's punch even shattered his internal organs. It's still love to be brave. Shaking his head helplessly, Yang Qing stretched out and aimed at Vegeta, and then a faint blue light was released, slowly healing Vegeta's injuries. In just 1 minute, all the scars on Vegeta's body receded, and the latter looked at the elder in surprise. Elder, you are just like a god, you are amazing. It is completely incomprehensible that a powerful Saiyan warrior can even help people heal wounds, which is simply too bizarre. Quote. This chapter is not over, click on the next page to continue reading. Oh, I am God now. When Yang Qing saw the acquaintance, he also laughed and joked. Vegeta's eyes were immediately filled with admiration. For him, the mighty great elder had always been the person he admired the most. On the one hand, it comes from the ideas that his father King Vegeta instilled in him when he was young. On the other hand, it is because Yang Qing was really good to Vegeta back then. The two chatted with each other for a while, and when they understood that Vegeta had dared to go to Frieza to fight, Yang Qing said to Vegeta in a condensed voice. With your current strength, it's still too difficult to defeat Frieza. Unless you turn into a Super Saiyan, there is still a silver lining. Super Saiyan. Vegeta said in shock. Yes, after a Saiyan has cultivated for a certain period of time, he can awaken the blood in his body, guide the blood in his body in a way, and then transform into a Super Saiyan. In this state, your combat power will increase by dozens, hundreds of times. Vegeta, who was listening to Yang Qing's speech, was completely stunned at this time. He's far from a new star, he's been growing around Frieza, and he's never heard of a Saiyan in such a state. Then, how do you turn into a Super Saiyan? This is exactly why I am looking for you this time. Chapter 700_Opportunity. Yang Qing's words were full of seriousness, and Vegeta was stunned all of a sudden, and then the latter became even more excited. Big Elder, you want to teach me to transform into a Super Saiyan? Vegeta's heart was full of shock and joy. Regarding Super Saiyans, he actually knew when he was a child. At that time, his father was a powerful Super Saiyan. And his father's teacher is the great elder in front of him. Now, is it finally your turn? As for Yang Qing, looking at Vegeta's excited face at the moment, her heart was filled with emotion. He still remembered the same excitement when King Vegeta heard that he was going to teach him to transform. The faces of the two are very similar at this moment, and Yang Qing's eyes overlapped, as if he had become one person. King Vegeta. Muttering a sentence, Yang Qing's eyes were a little erratic. He thought of all the happy things he had with King Vegeta when he was on Star Vegeta. Unfortunately, these are many years ago. Vegeta, it's his continuation. Heart sighed, but Yang Qing was helpless. He knew that in this world, Vegeta's time was running out. And he can do nothing. The inertia of a universe space-time is extremely huge, even the gods can't reverse it. In the face of the general trend, what can he do as the preparing realm king god? He is a god and should obey the laws of the universe, not rebel. And, even if he resisted, he couldn't do it. Above the Kaiwang god, there is the more powerful god of destruction, and above the god of destruction, there is the even more powerful king of destruction. In the face of such a progressive class, the first level is stronger than the first level, and at this moment, he simply cannot defy it. However, with small changes, I can still do it. Even if you inevitably die, but before that, you were an indomitable Saiyan warrior. Shin said softly. Yang Qing smiled and said to Vegeta. Yes, your strength has reached this level, and you only need an opportunity next. The opportunity, Vegeta wondered, what is the opportunity? Angry. You have to get angry. Yang Qing said in a condensed voice. Angry. Vegeta looked blank. He has been angry countless times in his life, but he has never felt that anger has helped him. Come on, you have a battle with me. During the battle, try to recall your most angry scenes and get angry as quickly as possible. Yang Qingfei fell from the top of the mountain. Vegeta followed closely. Although the latter was puzzled, he still decided to do as the elder said. Ha! With a loud roar, Vegeta's whole body was turbulent, and the surrounding sand was rolled up. Seeing this scene, Yang Qing frowned. The control of breath is too vain. At this point in his practice, even if he transforms into a Super Saiyan, he will rarely have any effect on the things around him. Even if it is fighting an opponent, it will rarely destroy the rest of the things. This is the control ability of the gods, and it can achieve perfect 100% control over power. And Shia, at present, is also perfectly capable of mastering his own power to perfection. On the other hand, Vegeta didn't even grasp his own power, and his attack power was instantly discounted by more than half. However, the most important thing at the moment is to transform Vegeta into a Super Saiyan. Yang Qing also suppressed the thought in his heart and beckoned to Vegeta. Come on, Vegeta, attack me with your greatest strength, don't worry. I'll try my best not to hurt you. Saying that, there was a disdainful smile on the corner of his mouth. This was intentional, arousing the anger of the other party. Sure enough, although Vegeta respected Yang Qing, but seeing the other party's disdain, she was still on fire. After shouting loudly, Vegeta, with a powerful aura all over her body, rushed directly in front of Yang Qing, and suddenly punched out. The latter's expression remained the same, and there was no turbulent wave between his hands. Yang Qing was the one that hit Vegeta's fist. Buzz! The void trembled, the strong wind blew up, and Vegeta's complexion changed dramatically. He was directly lifted 3 kilometers by an invisible force, and slammed into the mountain behind him heavily. Too weak. Yang Qing spoke lightly, his face full of awe-inspiring looking down. Are you capable of that? Vegeta. What do you want to change like this? What are you going to do? With 2 words, Vegeta let out a loud roar again, her eyes were already red. He is weak and unable to accomplish anything. In the past 10 years, it has always been the deepest shadow in his mind. After waiting for so many years, he finally thought that he had accumulated enough strength and went to find Frieza, but was directly slapped in the face. If it wasn't for the elder, he would have lost his life. However, this has been hidden in his heart. This is a humiliation, a shame. But now, this shame has been spoken out by the person he most respects. This powerful contrast and excitement immediately made Vegeta furious. I'm going to kill you. With a loud roar, Vegeta charged again. However, Yang Qing still waved his hand calmly, and Vegeta was waved back again. Weak ants, you are too weak. The anger, the boiling, the burning anger, kept pounding in Vegeta's heart, making his whole being. This chapter is not over. Click on the next page to continue reading. His aura began to soar. Because of his anger, his strength continued to rise, and the airflow around his body was even more ferocious. It's not enough, your anger. With a boom, Vegeta was punched in the face by Yang Qing and flew out again. Again, you need to be more angry. Vegeta's anger caused him to tremble, and the turbulent airflow around his body became unusually vigorous. He rushed out again, but Yang Qing waved his hand coldly, but easily waved his leg again. Why am I so weak? He finally recognized the strength of the other party and the weakness of his own. I'm not reconciled to my weakness, I'm not reconciled, I can't do anything. I want to get stronger. At this moment, Vegeta's unwillingness, strong thirst and desire for power were actually merged with his anger, and then burst out. Crackling. The golden lightning began to shine, and Vegeta's anger was so intense that he calmed down. He no longer trembled, no more emotional swings. At this moment, his heart was unusually calm. Vegeta was aware of his state, but he had no other emotions.